Hello, welcome to another video. Let me level with you. This video is due out tomorrow. It is currently 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday the 24th. This will be out tomorrow, Tuesday 25th. I have put off making this video because I don't want to edit it. So I've left things to the last minute, which, you know, fun, yay. Anyway, let's get going. So this is my 2023 series catch-up, where I am with series so far this year. This is going to take a while. I have split all of my series into 5 different categories. They are series that I have started in 2023, series that I have continued reading in 2023, series that I have finished in 23, series that I have DNF'd in 2023, and finally, the biggest category, series that I have made no progress on this year. I'm joined by Bella as usual, so you're going to get a tail in shot there. So we're just going to ignore her wandering around. So let's get started, and I'm going to go through them in that order that I just said. I will also say some of the books on this list, or some of the series on this list, appear in more than one category, with the reason being that there are some series which I have started and continued and possibly even finished this year, so they've gone into all 3 categories. That isn't the case for most of the books on this list. Also, this isn't every single series that I have started. This is, I guess, every series that I have started that I intend to continue. So, as an example, there are lots of romance series that I have been reading this year that I don't intend to necessarily continue that series. So, for example, A Long Time Coming by Megan Quinn is in a series. I would read the others if they appear, but, you know, if I get them, but I'm not intending to read them necessarily. So yeah, I guess there are more series that I have technically started, but I don't necessarily plan on continuing them, so they're not on this list. But let's get started with the series that I have started this year. I'm not going to talk about any of them in huge amounts of detail. So first of all, we have got The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This is a kind of sci-fi dystopian series, follows Paige, someone who is a clairvoyant, and clairvoyancy is illegal in this world. I also started The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I actually don't know if I started this one in January or if I read this one at the end of last year and have made no progress on this one this year, but I have a feeling it was one that I read at the beginning of this year. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a classic sci-fi. The books are all tiny, so it really isn't a difficult one to read more of, but I am making my life difficult by not reading it. From a very small series to a very big series, I started Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan this year. This is a 14 or 15 book epic high fantasy. It is a very long, very slow-paced fantasy. I am currently on book 4. I started Percy Jackson. So this is the classic, the first Percy Jackson series. I think it's just called Percy Jackson, which I love. I love Percy Jackson. I love Rick Riordan's writing. I think it's fantastic. I've started the first Law trilogy by j.ayre. This is a grimdark high fantasy. It is much more character driven than plot driven, so I can't really give you a plot synopsis, other than we follow a collection of characters in this world. They are all incredibly morally grey. There is not a single good character. Even the ones which you like and you root for are horrible, evil people, which, you know, love. I started the Finlay Donovan series, so I read and loved Finlay Donovan is Killing It. I haven't yet continued with that one, spoilers, but I think I would like to. I feel like with that series I want to put a bit of a break between the books because I don't hear the best things about books 2 and 3. I hear that they're fairly repetitive. So I feel like if I've put a decent break between the books, then even if they are repetitive, I might not notice so much. I started the Plated Prisoner series with Guild by Raven Kennedy. This one is a fantasy romance. It follows a character whose name I can't remember. I want to call her Aurora, but that's not her name. Oren, maybe? Oren. Who is a gold-touched person, prisoner of King Midas. It is a King Midas retelling, and I really liked it. This smut was pretty good. Then I started Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. I did not enjoy this book at all. I gave it 2 stars. This is a YA fantasy. I don't really know what it's about, to be honest, because I didn't like it. Then I read Fourth Wing. So technically I'm up to date on this series. It's the only book out, but I do intend to continue this series. I don't need to tell you what Fourth Wing is about. Everyone and their mother has read Fourth Wing by this point, but I do intend to continue. So it's a series that I am currently reading. I then started the second Percy Jackson series, Heroes of Olympus. I think I'm 1 book in on this one. I'm really enjoying it. So I'm taking part in the Olympian Along, which is hosted by Pris at Pris Peruses. This is a year-long plus Percy Jackson read-along. So we've read all of the Percy Jackson books. We're going to read all 5 of the Heroes of Olympus books. And then if people want to, potentially we're going to carry on by reading Trials of Apollo, Magnus Chase, the Kane Chronicles, all of the rest of the books in Rick Riordan's world. So really enjoying it. I started Bridgerton. I read book 1 in the Bridgerton series. I liked this. This is a historical romance following the Bridgerton family, who have 8 children. And it's all about, I think it's set in Regency times, and it's basically following these 8 children, trying to marry them all off. I started Hedwig by Skye McKenna. This is a middle grade. I really liked this one. It was so cute. Really enjoyed it. I would like to continue, which is why, to be honest, this one was a bit of a question mark on the list. I would like to continue this series, but I'm not 100% certain if or when I will. I don't own anything else in the series. I started Jade City by Fonda Lee. Love this book. Fantastic. Can't wait to continue. It was a very slow start. It's a kind of gangster fantasy. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. But it took me about 250 pages before I actually properly got into it. So I feel like while I loved it and I'm definitely going to continue, this one wasn't a 5-star for me, unfortunately. And currently reading, so have just started reading 50 Shades of Grey, the classic romance. I'm actually reading this for a vlog, and the book that I actually need for this vlog is the 3rd book in the trilogy, so this whole trilogy will be finished within the next week or 2. So, on to the next category. So on to the slightly smaller category of series that I have continued this year. So, first one that I have continued is Artemis Fowl by Erin Colfer. So I have read various books in the Artemis Fowl series, but I don't think I've read all of the books in the Artemis Fowl series. So I basically decided that I'm going to just start again from the beginning and read them all. I continued reading Grace and Fury, which is a duology. Don't know who it's by. It's a YA fantasy, and it follows 2 sisters, one of whom it becomes a royal courtesan, I think. I continued with Heartstopper. very, very cute graphic novel by Alice Osman. We all know what Heartstopper's about. I continued Keeper of the Lost Cities by Samantha Shannon. So this is currently a 9 book series with a novella. The novella is like 400 pages. We're in the middle of it. I've read book 1 and book 9, so I've decided to carry on reading the series, and I'm up to technically book 2. I continued reading the Prison Healer series. This series is incredible. It is a YA fantasy, and it's just amazing. If you like trials, if you like sort of forbidden romances and good tension in a YA fantasy, read this book. It's absolutely amazing. I continued with Wheel of Time. Like I said, I started Wheel of Time this year. I'm currently up to book 4, so I've continued reading that one. I've continued with Percy Jackson. Again, started reading it this year. Continued reading that one throughout the year, and I continued with The First Law. Started that one this year, and I have continued reading that trilogy. Moving on to the series that I have finished this year. So again, this list isn't that long. I finished reading the Strange Worlds series by L.D. Lipinski. So it's the Strange Worlds Travel Agency. It's a middle grade series. I like this. I'm not the world's biggest fan of this series, but I like it. I enjoy it. I finished the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. So this is just the trilogy. I haven't read Hand on the Wall. I believe this is like same universe, following the same characters. I don't know if it's starting a second story arc or if it's a standalone. But I've finished the first 3, so I've finished the series in my mind. I'm up to date with Amari and the Night Brothers. So I've read both books that are out so far. I am also up to date with the Thursday Murder Club series. So book 4 is out in September, and I have read the first 3. Again, third time mentioning this one, I have finished the Percy Jackson series, and I have finished the First Law series. With the First Law, I finished the trilogy. There are 4 standalones and then a second trilogy as part of the universe, but I have finished this arc, this trilogy, so I'm kind of finished. I also finished the Last Hours trilogy by Cassandra Clare as well, and I've kind of put this one on as well. Fourth Wing, again, it's the only book that's out, so I am technically up to date on that series. We then have got, let's do DNFs next before we reach the enormous list of the ones that I've made no progress on. So series that I've DNF'd. So most of these ones I've just chosen that actually I've been reading them for quite a while and I have no more interest in them. So I've decided to DNF From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I read From Blood and Ash in 2020 and it was fine. I liked it. I really liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I've never continued. We're now 2023. I would need to reread From Blood and Ash to continue the series, and to be totally honest, I hear book 3 is awful. I hear it goes downhill, the series goes downhill, and I enjoyed From Blood and Ash for what it was. I didn't enjoy the plot enough to think I need to know what happens next in this story. So, series done. I DNF'd the Bone Season series. So, again, apologies. I know a lot of people love the Bone Season. So, I read the Bone Season back in 2020 and I never continued. I then this year restarted the series by reading The Pale Dreamer, and I intended to read the Bone Season and continue the series. But after I finished The Pale Dreamer, which I liked, I think I gave it 3 stars. I was like, it's fine. But I then had basically no motivation to pick up the Bone Season. It sat on my TBR for 2 to 3 months, and I was like, I'm not going to read this. So DNF the Bone Season. I have DNF'd the series of unfortunate events. For some reasons best known to me, I don't entirely know why, I was at one point collecting all of the series of unfortunate events books. I had like the first 5. But I read the first one and I liked it. I thought it was really good, but I thought the Netflix show with Neil Patrick Harris followed the events in the book almost word for word, which then made me kind of think, well, I really enjoyed the Netflix show. What am I getting out of reading these books? Because in fact the show was better. So I've decided to DNF that series. I have DNF'd the 3 Locks series by Bonnie McBird. These are Sherlock Holmes retellings. They are set in the world of Sherlock Holmes with Sherlock and Watson, told in the style of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but are completely brand new stories. I did genuinely really like the 3 Locks, which I've read. I have all 4 books. Well, I owned all 4 books. I have now gifted them to my mum. So, you know, if I want to read them, my mum has them and I will just borrow them. But I just sort of thought that actually these aren't really books that I'm going to be excited by. They're not ones that I'm reaching for. So someone else will have a better home with those ones. So I've DNF'd that series. I DNF'd Grace and Fury. So this was one, I read book 1, I believe it's either 2018 or 2019 and never continued. It was 2019 because I read it on a coach from Croatia to Montenegro. Okay, I'm very, very weird, but I really like travelling by coach. I know, I'm just a weirdo. Anyway, this year I decided to continue the series and read the second one, which I want to call Queen of Ruin, but isn't because that's a Throne of Glass title. Something, it's whatever it is. I read like the first 2 chapters and just thought, actually, this book isn't for me. If I'd read it after, you know, if I'd read it straight away afterwards, I would have enjoyed it. I'm just not gravitating towards YA fantasy and I'm just not interested. On a similar vein, I also DNF'd the Gilded Ones series. So I read the Gilded Ones, I liked it. I started reading the Merciless ones and again, I just got about 2 to 3 chapters in and I just thought, this isn't for me. I'm not gripped by this, so I'm going to DNF the series. And finally, same sort of reasoning with Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I started it, well, I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I did not enjoy it. I now have no intention to read Heart of the Sun Warrior. If I didn't like book 1, why am I going to like book 2? So, finally, onto the big scary section, the ones I have made note. Okay, so this section, we have got 26 books to talk about, or series to talk about. These are series where there are later books out. I could have continued them, but I have just not picked up these series throughout 2023 so far. And for some of them, quite a bit longer than that as well. So we're going to start off with Stormkeeper's Island. I really, really enjoyed books 1 and 2. This is a middle grade series. Genuinely enjoyed books 1 and 2. And I just haven't picked up book 3. And honestly, I don't know why, because I really loved the first 2 books. Then I've got Viper by Bex Hogan. So book 1 I loved. Book 2 I read last year, I believe, and it had been, I think I read book 1 in 2020 when it came out, loved it. I think I read book 2 in 2022. I hadn't reread the first book. I hadn't read any kind of synopses or anything like that, and I just was very lost actually throughout the whole book. So my enjoyment was a lot lower because even by the end of the book there were things that I just was like, wait, this relates to something, but I don't know what, because I've forgotten what happened in the first book. So because of that, I know that for me to read book 3, it's only a trilogy, for me to read book 3 I need to reread books 1 and 2, and I don't want to do that. So Viper is one which I'm really struggling with because I loved book 1 so much. I feel like I should really enjoy the trilogy, but I don't want to read all 3 of them. And Also, I'm not always the biggest fan with books set at sea. Viper was a bit of an exception, but I don't know if it can be an exception for a full trilogy when I struggled through the second book. So yeah, I look at Viper on my shelf and kind of wince a little bit. I've then got Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerry Maniscalco. I read book 1, loved it. Read book 2, quite liked it. I started reading book 3, but I just wasn't in the right place for it. It just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do through no fault of the books. But I had, and again, I'd read the first 2, so I don't know why I thought this, but I'd picked it up wanting a fantasy, wanting, you know, quite a kind of fun, like high stakes fantasy. And it's not, it's like a historical crime book. And I just wasn't in the mood for Escaping from Houdini, I believe it is. Just wasn't in the mood for it. So I put it back, so I put it down, so I kind of soft DNF'd it. But I then just not picked up the series again. And that's through no fault of the book. It was my own fault for picking it up at the wrong time. But that has kind of put a bit of a taint on the book because I've just not wanted to pick it up again. Then got Trials of Apollo. So this is another series where I've read book 1, I've read book 5. I wanted to read the books in the middle, but I haven't. I do intend to get to this series because I'm reading the Percy Jackson series again. I do want to get to Trials of Apollo after I finish Heroes of Olympus. So the plan will be to finish Heroes of Olympus this year, and then I'm going to start Trials of Apollo again. So I should pick this one up, but at the moment I haven't done anything with it. We've then got the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I read the 5th season last year before, I think it was 2021, and I liked it. It was a bit confusing, but I liked it. I haven't picked up the next one. It is actually on my TBR for August. I don't know if my TBR has come out yet, so if it hasn't, sorry, spoilers. But I am planning on now reading book 2, The Obelisk Gate. But yeah, at this moment in time, I have not continued that series. We've then got the Starsight series by Brandon Sanderson. I read and loved Starsight, the first book. Skyward, sorry, the first book. The second, read and loved Skyward. The second book, Starsight, I liked. It was fine, but I didn't love it. I've now got 3 short stories to read before I get into book 3, Cytonic, and I believe book 4 is out at the end of this year. I want to carry on. I feel like it should be good. Because the first book was so good, I feel like it should come back around. And I've seen an interview with Brandon Sanderson where he said that Starsight went in a direction that he wasn't happy with. He didn't want to, and now Cytonic is going to be more similar to Starsight than Skyward, which is the one that I didn't like so much. And he said that he wants to bring it back to more like Skyward, except that there were certain things he had to do to get to that point. So I feel like I should like it. I feel like I definitely want to carry on. I'm just a bit scared, really. We've then got The 100 by Cass Morgan. This is a dystopian series, which I really enjoy. I really liked the E4 show that was on back in the day, and I'm really enjoying the book series. I'm up to book 2. I haven't continued yet, but I will. It is one of those series that I pick up when I kind of want like a light, fun sci-fi dystopia. So I'm not kind of mad at myself that I haven't continued it yet, because I'm sure I will. Then got another middle grade, Adventures on Trains by Sam Sedgman and MG Leonard. This is such a cute middle grade series. I really love it, really recommend it. So I've read the first two in this series. This follows Hal and his uncle Nate, I may have got the names the wrong way around, who go on adventures on trains. So his uncle is a journalist, and he is invited to basically go on these incredible train journeys and report them. And when we get there, there is some sort of criminal activity. So in the first book, which was the Highland Falcon Thief, there is a thief on the Highland Falcon. The second book is Kidnap on the Californian Comet, where, you've guessed it, there is a kidnapper on the Californian Comet. The third book, I believe, is in South Africa. We've got another one through Europe. We've got one in Australia, and then I think there's an Arctic one as well. I really enjoy these, and again, these are books that are so quick to read. Like, I can read them in one sitting, but I just haven't continued the series yet. I've now got a purring cat on top of my list, so where are we? Thank you, Babs. The next series that I have not continued this year is The Beautiful by Renée Ahdieh. This is a vampire series, and I might actually continue this one soon. I am in my vampire era. I am watching The Vampire Diaries for the first time. I know, come at me. I haven't been in a vampire era for a very long time. I was never a Twilight girly, so for me, vampires have always been a bit like, not really my thing. But I'm currently in a vampire era, so I might come back to The Beautiful because it's I really enjoy it. It's a vampire book set in New Orleans. The vampires are gorgeous. I read the first two and I really enjoyed them, so I want to continue. We've then got Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Yang, I think. Natasha Yang, yes. I've read the first two books. So, Girls of Paper and Fire, read it, loved it, absolutely adored it. I think I read this one in 2019. Girls of Fate and Fury? Girls of Storm and Shadow, the second book. Not so good with names here. I read and I didn't... You're not getting them. So, Girls of Storm and Shadow, I read, I think in either 2020 or 2021, and it was fine. I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked Girls of Paper and Fire, but it was okay. The third book, Girls of Fate and Fire, I have not read. I also do not own. I have it via NetGalley, but I don't physically own it. And it's one of those where, because I didn't enjoy the second book that much, I haven't physically bought the third book. But if I physically owned the third book, I'd be much more likely to read it. So I'm in a bit of a catch-22, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do in that situation. Okay, last section. So the next series that I have not continued this year is The Themis Files by, I don't know his name, Sylvain Neuvel. I'm checking on my shelves. So first book is Sleeping Giants. I've read Sleeping Giants. I really liked it. I own the 3 books in a trilogy. I just haven't continued. I have no excuse. Next book is, again, one of the worst ones because it's a duology, which is Raybearer. I read and loved, absolutely loved Raybearer. I own the second book, whose name I don't know, but I haven't read it. I would like to. I do feel like it's another one where I would need to reread book 1 before moving into the second book, though, which again kind of puts me off. Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. I have read book 1. I have not continued. I believe all 3 of those books I have got the special Fairy Loot editions for. So I've paid quite a lot of money for these books, and I ain't read them, which is really frustrating. I hate wasting money. So yeah, I'd like to carry on with Kingdom of the Wicked, because at the very least, if I read them and I decide I don't like them, I've got like a full set of books that I could sell. We've then got The Hatmakers by Tamsin Muir. This is another middle grade, and it's so cute. I really enjoyed it. I don't own either this book or the second book, not physically, but I would like to read the second one, which is called The Map Makers, I believe. There might be more in the series, I'm only aware of those two. We've then got The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've read book 1, I have not continued. I own book 2. I would like to continue. I did enjoy The Inheritance Games and I would like to carry on that series. I just haven't. Then we've got a couple of ones which I'm gonna be told off for. We've got the David trilogy. I read City of Brass last year, might have been the year before, and now this is where actually, and I'm using the same excuse for the next one as well, my mental health was not in the best place when I read these books, and I would like to reread them because I don't feel like I gave it the best chance. So I read City of Brass and I gave it 3 stars, and I've not continued. I own the trilogy, I really want to continue reading the series. And again, I think it was a me problem rather than a book problem. I would like to basically start the whole thing again. And same for the next book that I'm going to talk about, which is The Poppy War by R. Kwang. I read this same time as I read City of Brass. I think I read them both in the same month, and I gave it 3 stars as well. And again, I very much feel this is a me problem, or this was a me problem rather than a book problem. And I want to just restart that series as well. I feel like I wasn't in the right headspace to read these, and I didn't give them a fair evaluation, a fair review. But because of that, they both are now quite intimidating series that I want to read the whole series of rather than just books 2 and 3. And I have still got that little voice in the back of my mind going, well, did you really like it? So I want to continue. I am slightly scared of both of them. We've then got Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I really enjoyed Scythe. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. But yeah, really loved it. I have not continued the series. I own the trilogy. I hear not so good things about book 3, which always makes me slightly intimidated going into the series, because if I know that it doesn't end well, am I going to have a good time reading the whole series? But I would like to carry on before I forget too many of the details. We've then got probably the series which annoys me the most, which is Pages & Co. by... don't remember who it's by. So I've read the first 2 books in the Pages & Co. series by Anna James. And book 3 has been on so many TBRs. Book 3 has, without exaggeration, probably been on 8 or 9 TBRs over the last 2 years. And I just never read it. I read, even if I'm having a really good reading month and I've read everything on my TBR, Pages & Co. will not have been read. And it really frustrates me because it's a middle grade, it's 1 book left in the series, I enjoy the series, I just need to literally do the thing. But I have no excuse. I don't know why I don't get it read, but it doesn't ever get picked up. So yeah, Pages & Co. is on this list. There has been no progress made. And I'm only talking about the first trilogy. I know there is a second trilogy in the Pages & Co. universe. Honestly, even though I do enjoy Pages & Co., I'm not even entertaining books 4 onwards because it's taken me nearly 2 years to read book 3. I'm not going to carry on. We've then got Saga. So graphic novel series. I own the first 2 books. I have read the first 1 book, and I have not continued. I don't know why I have not continued. I would like to continue. Don't know. Well, part of my reason, I think, is that I'd like to get at least up to volume 9. I would like to carry on, but I hear that once you've got kind of in the new ones, the one I think it's volume 10 that has just come out, and people have said it's not quite as good as the first 9. So I would like to do that, get those first 9 read, because I really enjoyed the first book. But quite honestly, graphic novels are bloody expensive. And I can never find them anywhere other than like in a comic book store. And I just, yeah, like I said, I just haven't read it, haven't prioritised it. I also have in the back of my mind always this weird idea of, ooh, a graphic novel, let's save that. There might be a readathon where I need a graphic novel for. Magical Readathon is coming up. Do I have a single graphic novel, comic or manga on that TBR? No. Why not? No idea. Anyway, rant over. The next series that I have not continued is Red Rising. Apparently I've started and not continued quite a lot of sci-fi and dystopian series. Red Rising I really, really loved. Have not read more. Don't know why. Would like to. We've then got Dreamland Billionaires by Lauren Asher. I've read the fine print. I have not continued. I don't own books 2 or 3 either. I liked the fine print well enough. I think I probably gave it a 4-star, but I don't know. I think that was probably slightly generous. It's at least 100 pages too long. I would like to carry on and read the other 2 books, but I just haven't got around to it. We've then got A Dark Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. I do tentatively intend to finish this series next month, but I've only read book 1, and so I gave A Dark Shade of Magic 3 stars. And my reasons for this, I feel like, again, this is a me problem, not a book problem. I have read a lot of YA fantasy, particularly over the last 2 to 3 years. And A Dark Shade of Magic came out at the very start of when YA fantasy became big. So A Dark Shade of Magic, I can see, was groundbreaking. It was an absolutely groundbreaking, amazing novel. And in sort of, you know, the 6-7 years since it's been released, so many YA fantasies have built on and borrowed elements from A Dark Shade of Magic. However, I am reading A Dark Shade of Magic now in 2023, and even though I can appreciate that it was like a forerunner of its genre, I know what's going to happen. I know the twists that are going to happen. I know the plot points and the beats in this plot because every other book has borrowed from it. So it's one of those difficult ones where I can appreciate it for a book, but I don't enjoy it because I know what's going to happen. It feels predictable to me, but that's kind of my fault for reading it so much later than I should have. 3 series left. Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I read book 1. I have not continued. I do intend to continue that series probably in September, October time when it's Dark Academia season, but I haven't continued it yet. We've then got Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have read The Final Empire. I have not continued. I really liked The Final Empire. I would like to continue. I just haven't. And finally, this one has only just been added onto this list because I forgot about it and then thought, oh no, wait, I'm up to date. Oh no, I'm not. And that is Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I forgot that The Shadow Cabinet came out last month, I think. It might have been out longer than that. So I read and loved HMRC. I definitely want to read Shadow Cabinet. I don't own it yet. It is one of those which I do really want to read, but at the same time, I know that if I went to Waterstones tomorrow and bought the book, it's not going to be read tomorrow. It will probably get read maybe in October, November, maybe. I have other sort of witchy books that I would like to get read around then. So there's this part of me where I'm like, well, do I buy the book now so I get the hardback and it matches the a HMRC edition I've got, or do I wait until I'm actually genuinely excited to read it and ready to read it? But again, let's be honest, that never happens. I buy books all the time that I then don't read. So it's on my wish list, but I don't own it yet. I would like to read it. So that was so I have got 26 series which I have made zero progress on in 2023. I have got 8 series which I started this year and have not read more than the first book. There are 3 series which I started this year and I have made progress on, 2 of which I have finished, and 1 series which I have started and DNF'd. So 2 series that I have started and DNF'd this year. So, I mean, it's not great, is it? I mean, in my defence, started 8 series, which I started 8 series which I haven't continued on with. I have finished 8 series this year. So I guess started 11 series and finished 8, but I have continued 3 of them, so you know, small wins. For me, the main issue with the 26 series that I'm halfway through and I haven't made any progress on, because a lot of those ones I haven't made any progress on for 2 years plus, so I do need to get a wiggle on with some of them. Let me know if you have read any of the series that I have mentioned in this very, very long video. If you have, do you recommend I continue with them? Should I DNF anymore? I'm always happy to do some DNFing. And if you liked this video, please like below, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.